Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA A-Level Psychology 2025 Paper 3 Exemplar Answers for Gender, which you need to know for AQA A-Level Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. Cal is 6 years old. He admires his father, who is a lawyer. Cal tells his school friends, "My daddy is clever and important." Cal often sees his father using the laptop for work meetings. Sometimes, when no one is around, Cal sits in front of the laptop and pretends to talk to people. When his sister comes into the room, Cal says, "Be quiet, I'm doing important work because I'm a clever lawyer." Question 1. Explain how the concepts of identification and internalization can be applied to the description of Cal's behavior. 4 marks. A psychologist observes 3-year-old Leela playing at home. Leela spends most of her time dressing up and playing with the toy kitchen. She ignores her brother's toys like his toy cars and garage. Later, the psychologist asks Leela about nursery school. Leela tells the psychologist all about the girls and the games the girls play, but she hardly ever mentions what the boys do. Question 3. Discuss gender schema theory. Refer to Leela in your answer. 16 marks. Question 2. Briefly evaluate the influence of sex role stereotyping on gender. 4 marks. A limitation of sex role stereotypes is that they are socially sensitive. Sex role stereotypes may have harmful effects on society. For example, women may not go into fields such as science or technology, even if they are equally talented as men, because sex role stereotypes might tell them these are male industries. Similarly, men may avoid going into fields such as nursing and childcare due to sex role stereotypes. This is a limitation because it suggests that sex role stereotypes can limit individuals' career choices and opportunities, potentially leading to underrepresentation in certain fields regardless of talent or interest. A psychologist observes 3-year-old Leela playing at home. Leela spends most of her time dressing up and playing with the toy kitchen. She ignores her brother's toys like his toy cars and garage. Later, the psychologist asks Leela about nursery school. Leela tells the psychologist all about the girls and the games the girls play, but she hardly ever mentions what the boys do. Question 3. Discuss gender schema theory. Refer to Leela in your answer. 16 marks. Gender schema theory was first introduced by Sandra Bem, who developed gender schema theory to explain the differences between an androgynous person and a traditionally sex person due to cognitive style. She argued that when an androgynous person is faced with a decision on how to behave, they respond independently of any gender concepts. On the other hand, a traditionally sex-typed person determines what would be appropriate based on their gender due to their gender schemas. Bem therefore argued that a person was free in their cognitive style, e.g. an androgynous individual, would be psychologically healthier. This theory was later developed by Martin and Halvorson, 1981, who suggested that children around the age of 2 to 3 years old, who have established gender identity, develop their understanding of gender by actively seeking out information, interactions and experiences from their environment to help develop gender schemas, a mental framework of preconceived information, ideas, and beliefs about gender identity, gender and gender-appropriate behavior in the environment, in order to increase their understanding of maleness and femaleness. As the child grows up, the gender schemas become more complex, with early schemas focusing on the child's own gender, to age 8 where the child develops schemas for the opposite gender. Later, when the child is a teenager, they realize that a lot of the so-called rules about boys and girls are just social customs causing their gender schemas to become more flexible. The development of children's gender identity schema creates an in-group, their own gender, and an out-group, other genders. In-group schemas are attitudes, expectations, and behaviors of a child's own gender that they identify with. Out-group schemas are the attitudes, expectations, and behaviors expected of the opposite gender. This may lead them to regard their own gender group positively whilst seeing out-groups, opposite genders, negatively, although positively viewing their own in-group motivates the child to learn more about their own gender and develop their in-group schemas further. Children will actively search for information about how members of the in-group should behave, ignoring information that relates to the out-group, until they get older, when more detailed schemas can be formed for both genders. Leela has developed gender schemas about her in-group, as she spends most of her time dressing up and plays with the toy kitchen. Things she has most likely seen other female family members and developed gender schemas for these experiences and activities as female. She ignores her brother's toys because her brother is an out-group schema that she is likely to ignore until she is older. Leela has no interest in what boys do, which is why she only tells the psychologist all about the girls and the games the girls play. A strength of gender schema theory as a cognitive explanation of gender development is that the key principles of the theory are supported by other researchers. Bussey and Bandura, 1992, found that children as young as 4 reported feeling good about playing with gender-appropriate toys and bad about doing the opposite. Martin and Little, 1990, found that although children between the ages of 3 and 5 showed no signs of gender constancy or stability, they did display strong sex stereotypes around gender roles and stereotypical attitudes, beliefs and behaviors about which toys and clothes go with each gender. This is a strength because it suggests that children begin to develop gender schemas about gender-appropriate information as soon as they identify themselves as either male or female. A limitation of gender schema theory as a cognitive explanation of gender development is that there is a large breadth of research that suggests that children demonstrate gender-typical behavior before forming gender schema. For example, Alexander et al., 2009, found boys aged 3 to 8 months looked at toy trucks more than toy dolls and that girls aged 3 to 8 months looked at toy dolls more than toy trucks. Similarly, Caldera et al., 1989, found that children as young as 18 months display preferences for gender-typical toys. Further, Hassett et al., 2008, found that rhesus monkeys, animals who clearly do not have gender schema, also display preferences for gender-typical toys. This is a limitation because these pieces of research suggest that factors other than cognitive schema, e.g. biology, influence gender development and therefore an interactionist explanation might be more appropriate. A limitation of gender schema theory as a cognitive explanation of gender development is that it takes on a hard determinist stance when explaining gender identity development. The theory suggests that, hypothetically, it should be possible to change a child's behavior if you change their stereotypes or provide them with conflicting stimuli from the opposite gender. However, research, such as that conducted by Kane and Sanchez, 1994, has found that schemas and preconceived ideas about gender roles and gender equality are very difficult to break and so have little impact on behavior. This is a limitation because it suggests that gender schemas are deeply ingrained and resistant to change, indicating that cognitive interventions alone may not be sufficient to alter gender-related behaviors and attitudes. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.